can't even watch that one. Okay, I liked this guy, and I liked Joe Rogan before they all became obvious CIA shills.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
And look, I've been very harsh on Donald Trump over the last few months, but I think he deserves it. I think this administration is failing on so many levels, so profoundly, especially given the opportunity that they had. But, you know, I heard him the other day, he called into a Fox News show, and he was telling the story of the war in Ukraine, and it's like,
people don't fucking catch on to
it
this
just
shit.
seems like he's telling, like...
It seems like you learned this on a TV show. Like, can we get some books in your diet? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, we really need someone here who's read a book about this, because he kind of had an idea of what he was talking about, but then he got it completely wrong. So he's trying to tell the story, and he's talking about the corruption of the Bidens in Ukraine, and you're like, okay, yes, that is true, but like, there's a whole story here that I don't think you're really understanding. Because he goes, look, this goes back to 2014, and so I'm watching this, and I got like so excited for a minute. Like I was like, yes, it does go back to 2014. Thank you, Donald Trump. And then it goes back to 2014 when Putin took Crimea, and Obama let him have it. He just let him have it. Never would have happened on my watch, but Obama gave Putin Ukraine. And you're like, no, dude, that's not. Just go back 2 months earlier in that same year. The problem wasn't that Obama gave Putin Ukraine. The problem was that Obama took Ukraine away from Vladimir Putin. As I've played on your show, and you played with Tulsi Gabbard, the director of national intelligence has sat right here where I'm sitting and watched Gideon Rose explain to Stephen Colbert exactly what we're doing here. Russia, as Gideon Rose, the editor of Foreign Affairs magazine, said, Russia is Batman. Ukraine is Robin. We're stealing Robin away from Batman. That's what the Maidan Revolution was. That's why the USAID and the NED poured $100 million into the street protest, right? And so they overthrew the government, and then a bunch of the former Ukrainian prime ministers started floating out that we should tear up the Sevastopol.
Here's what people don't know. The news, you know why he knows how much money they spent? Because he probably got some of that money. You got to think about these people, especially on Joe Rogan, a lot of them are famous. And their time is worth a lot of money, and their opinions can make them a lot of money. Whatever they're saying, they're fucking selling something that they ain't telling anybody right now. We didn't give Ukraine to nobody. We didn't take Ukraine from nobody. Ukraine is its own fucking person. It's its own. That's like saying we're taking Batman from Robin. No, we're just trying to hire fucking Robin. We're not like Robin would rather work for himself, but we do the same thing with Texas. People think Texas wants to leave. Just like Ukraine wants to leave the USSR and Russia. They don't say that either. They don't call it USSR. It's Russia. The United States would do the exact same thing. When we fight Ukraine or give them money, it's like Russia giving Texas money to leave America, which they want to do. But America says, no, you can't leave.
Lease in Crimea. Because, this is Russia's only year-long warm water naval port. They've always had it. This was their agreement. They had like a 50-year lease or something like that. But after the West backed a coup that overthrew the government and put in a pro-Western government.
What a coup is, it's just when you just walk in and when you get like all the police chiefs and all the fucking church leaders and people, you start going behind the scenes in when the election comes or whenever, you just take over. You don't listen to it. And then you throw your opponent usually in jail in other countries.
They started talking big, like, well, maybe we'll tear up that lease. And so Vladimir Putin went, no.
One of the most overpriced things I have ever seen be sold repetitively is men's razors.
Put in a pro-Western government.
Here's another thing, is every goddamn thing that they sell on YouTube a commercial. This is a commercial for something. We're watching commercials. All we fucking do as human beings anymore is get bombarded by commercials. And you're going to pay for them one way or another, either with your time here or at work. Or
they started talking big, like, well, maybe we'll tear up that lease. And so Vladimir Putin.
Guess what doesn't have commercials? I just thought about books. How come there ain't no fucking commercials in books? You don't have to, every other 6 pages, there ain't a commercial for some bullshit in a book. What's up with that? I hope I didn't give them any good ideas. Don't fucking tell any book fucking people that. Now we're going to have, well, I guess magazines do it and newspapers, but why don't the book people do it? Hey, book people, what's wrong with you guys? Put the commercials in there. People still buy it.
I'll just take it. And that was like, so anyway, so he goes back to that, doesn't go back a few months earlier, and then misses the entire point. Because like the point is that it's not just like me being like, asshole. Oh, I wish Donald Trump was into the same books I'm into or something like that. The point is that when you don't get that piece of the chapter, then you miss what's happening right now. So when you're talking about like these, essentially what Donald Trump was saying, the way he was trying to sell it to Zelensky was like, look, do this rare earth minerals deal with us. And this is kind of like a security guarantee. It's not exactly a security guarantee, but if we're in business with you and then Putin's trying to fuck up our business, hey, he's picking a fight with us too. But the whole point is that that's exactly what caused this whole catastrophe. Vladimir Putin and the entire Russian elite have been crystal clear about this, that they go, look, we can tolerate a neutral Ukraine. We could tolerate NATO up to Ukraine. Ukraine is neutral, and then there's Russia. We cannot tolerate Ukraine being a part of America's military alliance. That's a step too far. But every time we try to let them be neutral, neutral seems like it's never good enough, and that never actually works. So if you're going to come in here and say neutral's not good enough, they're going to be part of the West, then we're going to say, actually, we'll take them as part of Russia instead. Now, he also believes, as he says all the time, which I just think is goofy and un-American, but he also believes that, like, they're not really a real country and they're kind of historically ours anyway. And, you know, he's got his own views on that. But that's not what the war was about. And everybody, you know, and when I was here, which I was very excited to do because I'm, you know, a weird romantic and have a dash of autism or something like that. But when I was really excited because me and Douglas Murray are going to debate this issue. And I remember when he first goes, the war had nothing to do with Ukrainian entry into NATO. And I was like, okay, well, let me just hit you with 2 points real quick. Number one, the head of the CIA, you know, during all the years of Joe Biden, when he was the ambassador to Russia, he wrote the Nyet means Yet memo. He literally said that this was all what it was all about and that Russia didn't want to do this, but they would if we kept pushing Ukrainian entry into NATO, and we did keep pushing it. And then I said the other one was Stoltenberg, who is not anymore, but was the head of NATO while this was happening. And he said that Vladimir Putin sent them in writing a draft treaty that all you have to do is put in writing that you will never bring Ukraine into NATO and I won't invade. And then he bragged that we said no. And then he invaded. But so I said this to Douglas Murray, and I was kind of curious. Like, I was like, what's his response to this going to be? Like, what is he going to say back to? Maybe he's got something I've never heard before that I'm going to have to be like, oof, shit, I got to consider that. And his response was, a libertarian quoting the CIA, I see. And you're like, wait, so that's your pivot is to I'm a hypocrite somehow, which isn't even hypocrisy. Like, yes, I think the CIA should be abolished. I also think it's relevant when the head of the CIA admits what the war was all about. I don't see that.
Do you think the CIA totally should be abolished? Don't you think we should kind of pay attention to what the fuck is going on in the world, giving a real life perspective, not a utopian perspective, but a real life perspective? There's terrorist groups all over the world plotting shit. Probably a good idea.
Yeah. So what the CIA was originally like conceived of, like essentially being a newspaper for the president, like being like, hey, we get all the real intelligence and we give it to you here.
Yes.
Yes, I 100% think there's room for intelligence gathering. But what the CIA became is a paramilitary organization that starts wars and overthrows.
Okay, what I missed? That's it for this guy. He's boring me. That's how you watch the news.